Hi, welcome to Dear Art Producer. I am your host, Heather Elder, and in this time when we're all working from home, I still wanted to continue the podcast and bring you the voices of the people on the front lines who can help us all better understand what's happening in our industry and how to better prepare for when we come back. Today is March 31st, and we welcome VP Director, Integrative Creative Services at McCann Health in New Jersey, Jennifer D. A natural storyteller, Jennifer's world-class directing and producing skills have garnered numerous awards throughout her career. We are fortunate to have her as a guest today and to help us navigate these new times. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Heather. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. My gosh, it's such a crazy time. Why don't you tell everybody where you are and what your setup is like and what's happening on your side of the microphone today?
Sure. Yeah, obviously, interesting time for everybody, as you said. It's interesting for me because, in my current role, I oversee the creative services at McCann Health, New Jersey. But at the heart and at the root of what I do and what I've always done for 25 years that I've been with the agency is I'm a producer. So while this is such a crazy time, there's something about being a producer that it's kind of like this is when you shine. So while it's been challenging, it's also been exciting at times to figure out, how can we still do what we do, but do it in a different way. So scary, fun, challenging, interesting, all of those things. I'm working remotely from my home in New Jersey, which I do frequently when things are, as they used to be before all this broke out. So not such a difference for me working remotely, but interesting seeing, my other 170 plus colleagues into that same mind.
Yeah, I think you've touched on a couple of really interesting points. I mean, as producers, we're so resourceful, this group that we're part of. We're not used to saying no, and we're always out for finding the next or the most relevant solution. So, I did find comfort when this first happened that, we didn't have to pivot our value system as producers or how we approached things. We already approached things like trying to be as resourceful as possible. And then, like you said, the idea of working from home or working remotely is not new to any of us either. I think, like you said, watching all the other people around you having to try and figure that out, I think it's kind of hard for people. Where are you putting your desk? You don't have your big monitor anymore. Do you have a printer? Do you even need it? All of those things, I think it takes a little while. And before we started talking, you were telling me about some of the things your agency was doing to kind of humanize the whole experience. And I loved that you said they were encouraging everybody to turn their video cameras on.
Yeah, we, the great thing about McCann Health New Jersey and something we really hang our hat on as an agency. And like I've said, I've been with the agency, this is my 25th year. So I've really come up through the whole growth of the agency. And culture is really our number one thing. It's what we really are the most proud of. And so seeing our really tight knit family like culture have to shift to a virtual model, was, I think, put a lot of us on pause. How are we going to do this? And our leadership team has been fantastic with how we have encouraged people, like you said, to use their video cameras while we're chatting. Let's see each other in our most vulnerable moments with our gray roots coming in and our buns on top of our heads. And I think it's been a great transition to see that we can maintain our culture, which then keeps us, I think, the glue that holds our agency together is still intact, even though we all can't see each other physically. It's been really interesting.
Now, what did the timeline look like for you guys in terms of, I know California was ahead of New York and New Jersey in terms of sheltering in place. What did that look like for you? When did you guys start working from home? What happened to your productions that you had going on? Tell us a little bit about the timeline there.
Yep. So we have been, this Friday will be 3 weeks completed of shelter at home. So we have been up and running almost 3 full weeks at this point, which is great. I was amazed at, look, I'm not an IT person, so I'm sure they would speak differently, but I'm amazed at how seamless it was. I'm thankful how seamless it was because what it helped us do was to get to kind of what we've really taken on to be our mantra, which is think quick and think remote. You know, let's get into the work. Let's figure out how we're going to help our clients, with this shift in the way we do things. how are we going to be able to get back to business as quickly as possible? And so that has always been top of mind. And that transition, being a little bit more seamless than we all expected, has helped us really focus on how do we now pivot, and where do we go from here. I think the interesting thing is the productions on my end that were in the bidding phase had to take a quick pivot, and turn from in camera live action shoots to pure CGI projects. So it takes a lot of extra time and effort to then have your clients understand, what that pivot looks like. That's a big change, right? In a production, how do we show our clients what's possible in the CGI world when that wasn't something we were talking about, especially when it comes to the talent portion? And I think what's been so great to see from what, I always refer to our photographers, our animators, our CGI. I refer to everyone in your industry as creative partners, because that's what we look at you all as. You're not vendors, you're creative partners. And so it's great to see how you all are stepping up with how you're trying to turn around and help give us ideas or help us speak differently to our clients so that they can see that we still have the ability and the potential to deliver on their plan and what they had in place. We're not looking to stop work, we just want to find different ways to execute it.
And what are they asking from you right now, your clients, in terms of content?
So they're not asking for anything different. What they're asking for is, how are we going to do this? I think the biggest shift for us is we do a lot of convention based work, and conventions aren't happening. So, how do we move to a virtual convention platform? And so, we're helping clients solve those issues. But where I focus on at McCann Health New Jersey is in the production side and the creative resourcing side of things. So we've had to quickly shift gears and, like I said, show clients how we can still execute and deliver on the timelines that, as of now have not shifted. I work in healthcare. Even though we're in the midst of a pandemic, people are still getting ill. People still need treatment. So we still need to be working and delivering on what our scopes were from the very beginning. So we haven't seen major impact on changes to what we're delivering or the ask, but more so about how are you going to do it?
And what are some of the solutions that you're offering your clients and maybe, your partners have shared with you?
The number one message that we're trying to send is, let's not talk about not executing a project that we already planned on doing. Let's turn and talk about how can we execute the project that we're doing. I think one of the most interesting thing that is come out of this is that, you're seeing all these talk shows doing from their home, right? You see Jimmy Fallon at home, Jimmy Kimmel at home. Everybody's kind of agreed that we get the production value may not be there, but everybody's still delivering their content. And so if we can establish that kind of understanding that we have to shift gears a little bit, but we're still going to be able to give you what you need, I think that instilling that confidence is first and foremost. Making sure that the story that we set out to tell is still paramount, and not let our storytelling tools in this situation limit us. I mean, that's really what McCann Health New Jersey is promoting, is to make sure that we're still going to tell your story. It's still the most important thing. We're just going to help you figure out how to tell it differently.
I mean, that's so paramount, I think, for everyone, because not only does it show that you can get it done, but it gives your clients the confidence that they've chosen the right partner. I know when this first started for me, the messaging, I had to really think about what I wanted to talk about and how I wanted to be there for people. And it was the idea of what is visually possible now, and at first it was the idea of, okay, well, maybe we've got some productions in place. We're trying to get them done really quickly, before shelter in place was even on the table places. Okay, let's do some live streaming. Let's minimize crew. Then it became, okay, well, we're all in shelter in place. It is not responsible to do a production at all right now. What is visually possible now? Well, stock is visually possible now. Reuse was visually possible, was now. We can work with our clients to help them create concepts for things that we can help create in the future for them when we all come back. We can work with them with their CGI artists to, take imagery and do something different with it. So being a solution for your clients, I think, even on our end is really important.
Yeah, there's nothing that has excited me more on a daily basis with all the emails that I typically receive than getting emails like the one I got from you today about stock. Use photographer owned stock. So it's not stuff you're getting that everybody has access to, but we have that too. So here's another solution we can help you bring to the table for your clients that give them a little bit more peace of mind. I mean, my biggest thing is don't stop doing that. We need that support from you all in order for us to continue to do our job for our clients. Is keep bringing the ideas. Don't not communicate with me. Just communicate differently with me. Communicate with me about what you can do to help me solve the challenges at hand. And that's where you're going to see the response, because I'm looking for solutions. And if you're coming to me with potential solutions, we're all going to be able to keep working, right? Isn't that the goal?
Absolutely, yeah. What do you think your biggest pain point is? Like, what are you trying to solve?
Talent,
Talent.
talent, out number one. And here's what I really am appreciative of is a creative partner of ours understood that a project that I was speaking about earlier that was already going to be in camera live action is now a full CGI. But how do you make that believable? And they came to us with a presentation with three different tiers of possibilities of the talent portion of the project based upon three different scenarios of where we are in 3 weeks when it's time to shoot. Is it possible to do a small shoot? Is it something that where we do the, I always mispronounce it, photogrammetry? Do we do that? Or do we use digital talent and skin the wireframe talent and just have the clients understand that certain things are going to be a little bit more limited for different reasons, but to have a partner come to me with three options in a matter of days, um,
Right.
that keeps my project on track and that keeps us moving forward. And that for me is absolutely paramount at this time.
We had an interesting request the other day for a stock image, and it was of a pregnant woman in a hospital bed. It was incredibly specific. And one of our photographers is, home, sheltering in place with his wife, who is a stylist and also a model, his kids, and his in laws. And he is going to do the shoot for them in his house, social distancing with the people that he's been with for the last 3 weeks. And it's a very cool idea that we could actually deliver on something that they needed because we had all the right people in place for it.
Yeah. It's listen, that's exactly what I said before, right? McCann Health, New Jersey, we're trying to how do we think quick and how do we think remote? And that is a perfect example of how I'm still able to deliver because you all are thinking that way. Nobody knows how long this is going to go on for, but I feel like now we're 2, 3 weeks in, and it's like, how do we return to business as usual in this unique situation while not letting it be all about, and I don't want to just, say it's not important about what's going on pandemic wise, but at some point this needs to become our business as usual, right? Because it's going to be like this for a while.
So, something that came up the other day when I was talking to another rep, and also came up when I was working on the workbook webinar, is this idea of what we do now, does it become a precedent for what we do in the future? Right? The idea that we're all getting used to seeing Jimmy Fallon at home, and it costs a lot less money to produce Jimmy Fallon at home than it does for him in the studio, right? The shoot that we're going to be doing at this photographer's house is going to cost less just because there is no crew. It is bare bones. We're obviously charging the same fees and things like that. But how do we make sure we don't undo all the hard work we've done to maintain the level of collaboration that happens on set with a big production?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a great question. Something I wish I had the answer to, but it's something I think about. Yeah, for sure. You know what I mean? Is you don't want down and dirty to become what we do, right? But I
Right.
think it's within the context of I think things are going to change after this. You know what I mean? And I think we're just going to have to broaden what our offerings are. So I don't think it'll go to a model of everything needs to be done a certain way because we saw how you could do it in a tough situation, but I do think it'll push us to do things differently and think differently. But I think in the end, it just helps us grow. I mean, in the end, that's the goal, right? So that we keep growing and offering fixes for situations like this.
I agree. I also feel like, as a culture and as an industry, we were operating, and I've said this before, but we were operating at a pace that just was not sustainable. And it's this pause that we're in really gives us all a chance to rethink a lot of things, right? Not just professionally, but personally as well. And there are conversations that are happening like about terms and conditions, about the future of shoots, about estimating what is the production, what does the set look like, about hair and makeup abilities, like that needed to be happening anyway, right? We needed to be thinking about these things that we never either had a chance to or an opportunity where both sides were listening.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's how evolution works, right? But maybe we've just not seen it in this granular of a level with what we do in production, right? But everything we do as humans, we evolve around the changing times. And so to me, in the grand scheme of things, we'll be evolving our production models. This is naturally the way it's supposed to go. Yeah, it's caused by a horrific situation, but it is in the from my point of view, this is part of evolution and how it works and how we're going to evolve and change things. And I think if we can look at it from the perspective of how exciting it will be, right, to see where we can now take production into the levels we've never done before, that's where the benefit will come from. It'll be easy to spin it, the opposite way, but we can't stop it. So why not get on board, right? Figure out what these solutions can be, and then how we integrate them moving forward when we return to, whatever normal really is.
Is your agency or your teams talking about what the future of production might look like?
I don't think we're talking about it actively at the moment because I still think we're evolving through this process, but I think the evolution itself will dictate what we do moving forward. So while we may not be actively talking about it, we're doing it. From the agency world, case studies, those are the things that you hang your hat on, right? What's the proof of concept? Well, it's the case study. So I think it's what we learn through this process that will really help shape what we're going to do moving forward.
I 100% agree with that. There's so many people who have been asking me, what does it look like? What is a shoot going to look like? And I'm like, I can make some guesses about some things that we're going to have to do, but we're still in the middle of the experience,
Yeah.
and the experience is going to inform what happens next.
Yeah.
So we don't know yet. So we kind of have to like struggle through a little bit and obviously start the conversations and be thinking ahead and help shape it. But I think we aren't at a point yet where we can say 100% what it's going to look like.
No, absolutely not. And honestly, in trying to look at it from the glass half full perspective, why pigeonhole ourselves with even thinking about that now? Because the possibilities could be endless. We could be moving into an area of production that we've never had before. Who knows? I mean, look, here we are in the golden age of content production, right? We've never, ever, ever in the history of television and movies had more content being produced than we do right now. That's all basically grinding to a halt. But what are we doing? We're naturally evolving along with it and figuring out ways to still deliver content just in different ways. And I mean, it's just all part of the growth and the path forward. So I try in the moments where I say, what are we going to do? I try to, flip it on its side and say, wow, what can we not do? It's endless possibilities.
And thank God they've created all that content. What would we be watching?
I saw a great meme the other day. It was like, I just watched a great show. It's called Netflix.
Yeah, oh, I saw that too. I thought that was great. No, and I saw one that someone said, I just finished Netflix. I was like, oh,
It's fantastic. I mean,
that was great.
it's interesting times, and I'm, while we're challenged with how we navigate this for our clients, and keep on task with producing campaigns that still need to get out there because people still need their medication, their treatments, their therapies, all these wonderful things that we in healthcare advertising focus on. It'll just be interesting to see how that continues to evolve and how we're able to answer what it is we need to deliver, but in a different way.
Let's talk a little bit about marketing and photographers and directors and CGI artists and illustrators, all these people. Is it okay to market to you right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I think your way in is being current with how you're marketing to me, right? Let's talk about what's going on right now. Even if what you're trying to market to me may not be something I can utilize right now, it's going to catch my attention. So I'm looking for partners who are going to help solve the problems we're dealing with right now. So don't stop communicating with me. Just kind of pivot on how you communicate. That's probably my best advice.
And is there anything we shouldn't be doing?
No, let's put it this way. I haven't seen anything where I'm like, why did you do that? So not yet. The other thing that's great is I get, hundreds of emails a day, but I've seen an increase on what's coming through. And I'll be honest with you, Heather, I've seen a level of quality that maybe I don't always see because of what's going on. I see actual communications that I feel are real time, genuine thing versus one off marketing emails. I feel like there's some connectivity going on, and something's different that's catching my attention, right? So, what is that? And what can you take out of this scenario that moving forward can help marketing and impact it in a positive way so that it doesn't feel like you're just a name on a list and you're getting an email every day from a certain person, but rather, hey, we're here to help you. What can we do? Here's some ways we're solving other problems. Does this work for you? That's really what we all need right now.
I think solutions oriented messages are really powerful right now. And I had an art producer tell me that she also really loves just the beautiful picture.
Yeah,
She's like, everyone is saying just, don't market like you normally do, change it up a little bit, be relevant in your messaging. She's like, but I still like the beautiful picture.
yeah,
Give me in fantasy what I can't have in reality.
yeah.
And I thought, that's very cool idea. That somebody just wants to see the beautiful picture still.
Well, I think it's figuring out how to strike the balance, right? I'm trying to do that personally. We're all trying to do that. How do we strike the balance of business as usual, but also while acknowledging that it's not business as usual? And I think that's a very delicate balance to strike. And I think the marketers who are going to do that right are going to be the ones who are going to, succeed in this time more than others. I think it's really important to figure out that balance in your communications.
Do you have any advice for photographers who can't work right now, right? They can't go out and shoot. What do you think they should be thinking about and working on right now?
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about that yesterday. Actually, I was thinking about all these photographers who I've had relationships with for years and how they're managing through this. And just even your mention before about, you know, one of your photographers is home. He's got his whole family quarantined. He's going to start, creating content using them. I mean, I think it's about that's what we look to you all for, right? Is to come up with that creative genius. And I think for photographers, it's more challenging. I mean, CGI houses are probably, doing better than normal right now, whereas photographers are really suffering. And I think the best thing for them to do is to focus on what can they do to be more creative and how they get content out there or able to market themselves. And, does it make sense for some photographers to think about larger partnerships? You know what I mean? Where they are working with places that are able to develop stuff in CGI a little bit more. I mean, many photographers we work with have counterparts that they work with, for CGI portions of their projects, when it's a mixed media piece, like a CGI and a live action. But, is there something that photographers can be doing thinking, down the road about things being more of a partnership? I don't know. It's challenging.
Yeah, I've always been a big advocate of collaboration and partnerships. I think your voice is louder when you bring you collaborate with somebody else and you can learn a lot from each other. You don't have to be so alone.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, listen, I think before all this happened, I've watched, in the 25 years I've been doing this, I've seen such a shift in the last 5 to 7 years with photography alone and how, listen, we've been doing for a dozen years now at McCann Health, New Jersey. We've had video piggyback on top of all of our print campaigns. But in the last 5 to 7 years, I've actually seen photographers now smartly marketing themselves as photographers and DPs or presenting themselves with a DP partner to help. So I've seen the evolution, I've seen them change with the times. And I just think it's about how can they do that again? How do you reinvent yourself again?
I think too, I would add that we all have really long housekeeping to-do lists, right? There's things that we never have time to get to. And although I feel busier than I ever have right now, I still have that list that I'm trying to tick off, and I'm trying to get to those bigger projects that never had the time or I never had the bandwidth to deal with. And also asking help of people. I have a new website that's coming out for something and it's with Wix. So I put out on Facebook, if anybody understands Wix and they have a minute to help me figure out something I'm stuck with, and I've got a bunch of emails from people saying, I'll help, I'll help. So people are, trying to be there for each other. And if you've got a long to-do list, you might be surprised at who's out there to able to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we see that as well. Everybody's kind of, like you said, ticking those things off that they never seem to get to. I also think for photographers, it's think differently. I mean, look, You can go out and take a walk through, a more remote area. Do they, shoot plates? You know what I mean? You find a way to get plates out there. Is that what you're thinking about? Shooting environments and different scenes that could maybe make their library more robust for the projects that come down the road. It's how do you utilize that time in a way that's going to empower your business when things kind of return back to a state where photographers are going to be back doing what they do best.
I think this is really helpful for people to hear because I've been talking to people for the last few weeks, multiple times a week about what's going on. And I feel like I do have a decent finger on the pulse of what's happening out there. And in the beginning, I feel like people were so paralyzed, right? They didn't know what to do or what was appropriate or what to concentrate on. And now I feel like people are starting to, there's definitely not a calm that's come over, but a purpose,
Mhm.
right? People are starting to recognize what is important to them during this time and what they want to use it for, whether it be shooting plates, pivoting to stock, partnering with a CGI person, whatever it is that's appropriate for them. All of a sudden, I'm sensing that people are beginning to become less paralyzed.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to, what I said before about what we've been talking about so much at McCann Health, New Jersey is, the story that you set out to tell is still paramount. And don't be limited by the storytelling tools at your disposal. And I think photographers can take that to heart too. Don't be limited by the tools that you do or don't have access to now. Telling your story through your lens is what you do. You can figure out a way to do something different during this time. I do believe it's possible.
Well, and photographers have more content than anyone,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like, my gosh, like, let's take that content that you have and do something with it right now. Create a new project, collaborate with someone to turn it into something else, sell it for stock. Like, there's so much that you can communicate and there's so many stories that you can tell with what you've already created.
I mean, I love, like I said, you sent that email earlier about look at our stock libraries. I'll tell you what, I would say a good bunch of art producers just typically think about the big stock houses when they think about stock. When I open that email from you today, I'm like, whoa, this is yet another thing I can bring to my creative team who can in turn bring to my clients and say, look, I know sometimes the word stock is a scary thing when you're talking about something you own, something branded, right? You don't want to have an image that everybody else can have. But there are great photographers out there doing work that they're licensing as stock, but that's not, going to be used by the same number of people that would be by a big stock house. So boom, there's another solution right there. So yeah, why not go through your archives, right? Go through your archives of all the stuff you've shot that you own and see what you can do to create something because we need content. In order for us to get that content, if we're not able to go out and shoot it and you've got it in your library, there's an opportunity.
Well, and I think something that people are not realizing just yet is, there were a lot of concepts that were approved that haven't been able to be produced yet because either it required a large production or now they're pivoting the creative to, maybe partner with CGI or illustration or something. But what people should probably start remembering is that pretty soon you're going to be concepting new things. And you now have new tools at your disposal. So if you know that you could come to my stock site or any other photographer who's got collections available and be inspired by something they've already created, you now are getting to create something with the images already in mind.
Yep. I think that's interesting because, that's another thing and why I always stress that who we work with, I call creative partners. That's really what I look at as with. So quite often we have, we have these ideas, they get approved and we go out and we shoot it. If I've got my creative partner helping me earlier on in that process, I'm going to deliver an end product that's going to be a heck of a lot more like what we started off with versus me starting off with a sketch or a stock image that doesn't ever, that evolves differently. So I love the
Exactly.
idea of being able to bring creative partners into the process earlier. And I do think, Heather, you're going to see a lot more of that. I think that you're going to see a lot more in the coming weeks and months of agency producers coming to you saying, hey, listen, instead of us coming up with, a different way to do this, we're interested in so and so. Can we work together? I think photographers and CGI houses and illustrators and animators and everybody alike should absolutely be proactively offering services to help in the ideation phase because so we're presenting solutions that are actually feasible. It's like how I said before, I had a partner come back with 3 different ways to execute the talent. I can't tell you how much time that saved us from coming up with ideas that maybe weren't feasible in that situation. And so
Yeah.
I think it's another great use of time. I would love to hear personally from photographers who I have long term relationships with, or photographers who want to work with me saying, hey, listen, I know you may have something coming up. Let me know. Can I help with your treatment? Can I get involved earlier? I mean, I think it's a smart marketing tool on their part.
Well, and it's something we've been promoting for a long time, this idea of what you're saying, this creative partner, which has changed, right? We always have used the terms creative partner, where it used to be, yes, give me your layouts, I'll shoot this. I'm creatively here to partner with you to execute this shot or this library. Now, I think it is a true partnership where the photographer, director, whoever you're partnering here, there's so much more required of them to beyond just shooting a library or shooting a single image, right? There's so many different channels that they have to be able to recognize that they have to help fill content for. And each one of those channels requires a different sort of direction from the photographer. So bringing that person in earlier to talk about not just what the vision is from a creative director's point of view, but what the vision is from like an executional,
Mhm.
and creative point of view from the photographer, because I really think it could make for not only a stronger project, but the execution can be much easier, I think, if everyone's talking about things ahead of time.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I that's how I operate. I think the great thing about my agency is, McCann Health New Jersey has been great about focusing on bringing people in earlier. You will see producers from my group in meetings about campaign kickoffs while they're still in testing. You know what I mean? Like, we're brought in so early. We have a seat at the table. We have a creative voice. That's how our agencies always functioned. And so to be able to bring our partners in earlier only helps with a better end result, as we said.
I would love that. I would love that if I were getting phone calls that said, "Hey, can your photographer talk to my creative? They're in the concepting phases. Can they bat around some ideas?" Yes, we would love that. We would absolutely love that.
And I think it's a great marketing tool for you all now. Maybe that's a different path you take or a different set of communications you send out is like, look, we know you're, listen, everybody is planning for what's going to be happening in all of 2020 and maybe even Q1 of 21 at this point. That's the nature of our business. So while we're in this moment of what's happening, we are still thinking about when we get back to, the way things normally function, and we're still going to need all the assets, all the content, all the stuff we would have needed if this happened or not. So why not take the opportunity to reach out and say, hey, look, while right now you may be going down a different path where you're using CGI because it works right now, we know you still have stuff coming down the pike. Where can we jump in and help you with that stuff?
Exactly. Yeah, and it's what we're doing. It's what we were doing before, and I feel like people's ears are a little bit more open to
One,
that now. They're hearing it more because it's valuable to everybody was moving so fast before. There was no time to ask somebody to get involved earlier. Now, and I'm not saying that people have more time on their hands, but I think different parts of the process are being valued a little bit differently now, and that creative process is really important right now, because if you're going to execute anything in this new world and provide the content that your clients need, you need to make sure whatever you come up creatively is possible to do.
yeah. Listen, like they say, necessity is the mother of invention, right? So while you're saying, I've been saying this is the marketing I've been sharing all along, I'm hearing it differently because it's the time that I needed it. And it's not saying I'm not listening when you're speaking to me when everything's okay. It's that I'm moving so quickly. I've got so many
Yep.
productions. I am getting hundreds of emails a day, marketing emails a day, and I'm trying to, run a group where I have 4 different disciplines under me aside from being head of production.
Yep.
So, it's like I said, now is the time.
Now is, yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. Well, how is everyone in your group doing? Is everyone seemingly got this figured out now, this working from home? And do they have a good support network? And socially, are you guys connecting on Zoom, cocktail parties? Like, what kind of fun things are going on out there that we can share with everyone?
Yeah. So House Party is like on fire. The app has just, I don't know anybody who I'm connected to who's not using the House Party app. I mean, it just gives you that opportunity to connect as a large group. The quality is phenomenal. You can play trivia, you can play quick draw, you can play any, heads up, all these games. So we have seen a lot of people using House Party. So we've been doing a lot of happy hours. And another great thing that our teams are doing, which another thing going back to the culture at McCann Health, New Jersey, we're so much about being a family that it's so cool watching the brands having, 12 to 1 is a group lunch. Whoever wants to have lunch together, there's no meeting, but you just get on Teams. So we use Teams.
That's great.
We get on our Teams and everybody gets on in video chat and everybody just connects and eats lunch and shows their kids running through the room or their dog. And these are all the things that are helping make this process. I mean, I feel lucky that I am the head of production because, as I said before, as producers, this is what we do, right? Work remotely, work anywhere. We can work anywhere. As long as I got a Wi-Fi connection, I'm good to go. So my producers are doing great, but, watching my designers, how they've been acclimating to the process. But I'm so impressed, and we are so impressed as leadership at McCann Health New Jersey with how everybody has just embraced, the current situation and how successful we've been in just a few weeks with ironing out the bumps as quickly as we can and finding ways to still connect. We all miss, our agency is built in two wings pretty much. And in the center of that is our cafe. And that's the nucleus. That's where we exist. That's the heartbeat of our agency. And it's where Bagel Fridays happen. It's where our all staff meetings happen. It's where I conduct a lot of my team meetings in there. It's just the heartbeat of our agency. And missing that physical heartbeat, but to see us replacing it with House Party, with, Teams happy hours and all these amazing things, it just makes me so happy to see that we're able to work even under the most challenging of situations. It's been really cool.
That's awesome. That's really great. I think that's such a perfect, wonderful way to end on such a positive note about community and how you're able to keep your culture going even remotely. I think that, speaks not only to you guys as an agency, but to, as we talked about earlier, this idea of this shared humanity, right? We are all in this together and we're trying to make the best of it. Jennifer, it's been so wonderful. I think we've talked about some really, really important things and very helpful things for the photographers out there that might be listening and other art producers as well who are listening. So this was fantastic. I thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you for the opportunity. It's great. Listen, this is another great way, right? We're doing this, and it's needed now. So I'm thrilled to be able to share, what we're doing at McCann Health New Jersey and how you all can help us. It's really great. So I appreciate you asking me. It's been fun.
Absolutely. Well, I hope you're surrounded by everyone and everything you need right now. Stay healthy, stay happy, stay, I don't know, whatever, and just wash your hands.
Yes, wash your hands.
Wash your hands, everyone. All right. Have a good day, Jennifer.
Heather, you too.